Disclaimer: this story is based on real events. All names and appearances have been changed for safety reasons. Some details were deliberately altered. You decide for yourself who the real monster was in this story. Arizona. Courtroom.
When the judge read out the sentence, the courtroom was so silent that you could hear someone stifle a sob in the last row. Guilty. Sentenced to 18 years of imprisonment, with no possibility of parole for at least 14 years. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stared straight ahead, as if she had lived through all of this long ago. Later, journalists would write, "The victim became the killer." And in the case files, there would be only one dry line. 7 years earlier, she had been officially listed as missing. But no one in that courtroom knew yet what she had survived, and who exactly she had killed. *** Chapter 1. The disappearances. The first 3 girls disappeared in Arizona almost unnoticed. No loud headlines. No social media. Hysteria. Different cities. Different neighborhoods. Different lifestyles. There was only one thing that united them. No one ever saw them again. The first, a student, 21 years old. She went out in the evening to get coffee. The cameras showed her entering the store. There was no footage of her leaving. The second, a nurse, 26 years old. She was returning home from a night shift. Her car was left in the parking lot. Inside her purse and her phone, a waitress, 24 years old. She was last seen at a gas station on the highway. At first, the police didn't even connect these cases. Different cities, different circumstances. No signs of violence at the scenes, until the fourth one disappeared. Her name was Emily, 23 years old. An ordinary girl. No secrets, no enemies. That evening, she was driving home after her shift. The road was empty. The heat was heavy. The radio softly crackled. She stopped at a traffic light when a car pulled up beside her. The driver rolled down his window.
Witness number 1. Interrogation recording.
I was standing in line at the same gas station. I saw her step out of the car. I saw that man. I don't remember his face, only that he looked like someone who works in an office, not like a maniac. Just an ordinary guy. Completely ordinary. 3 days passed. Emily was officially declared missing, and 5 days later, she was found alive. Emily was found at dawn near a roadside motel 40 miles from her disappearance site, in severe shock. She sat on the cold concrete, hugging her knees, unresponsive to questions, voices, and even raised shouts. An officer later said he had never seen such a frozen, empty stare in a living person. At the hospital, she remained silent for 3 hours, while doctors documented bruises and signs of extreme dehydration. I hated everyone in that moment. The doctors, the police, the walls, because they were still alive. Detectives waited for a story, but Emily kept repeating the same single word again and again. "Oil," she whispered. "Oil," as if that word contained everything that had happened that cursed night. The gas station clerk later recalled seeing a car with hazard lights on and a man in glasses nearby. He did not seem dangerous, the clerk said. Just a tired man, like hundreds passing through each night. Emily's interrogation lasted exactly 80 minutes, after which she completely shut down and refused to speak. The police report used dry wording about psychological trauma, without descriptions, details, or any names. I survived not because he allowed it, but because he made a mistake, and I remembered it. But in that hospital room, she still did not know that this mistake would become his sentence. 7 years later, this knowledge would turn from a memory into a plan, cold and precise, like a shot. Chapter 3, 7 years of silence for 7 years. Emily officially remained a survivor. Unofficially, she remained a crime scene that never closed. She moved to another city, changed her last name, learned how to smile when people asked the wrong questions. At night, she did not sleep. She waited. Every sound outside her door at 2 a.m. felt like footsteps coming back for her. Every man in glasses looked dangerous for a second too long. I didn't fear death anymore, she would later testify. I feared forgetting his face. The police reopened the case twice. Both times it went nowhere. The witnesses gave the same descriptions. An ordinary man, average height, glasses, calm voice, no visible aggression. Too ordinary to be remembered, too invisible to be caught. Suspects appeared. Truck drivers, former offenders, men with records. None of them matched what Emily remembered, because what she remembered was not a monster. She remembered patience.
Witness inserts former motel manager. I saw a man once, years ago, standing near the rooms at night. Didn't smoke, didn't hurry. Just waited. Back then, I thought he was waiting for a ride. That motel was less than a mile from where Emily had been found. The cameras had not worked that night.
Emily tried therapy, medication, support groups. Nothing erased the same recurring image. A man calmly wiping his hands with a napkin under yellow streetlight. She never told the police that detail. She kept it for herself. I didn't want them to catch him. She would later admit, in court, I wanted to recognize him. In the 6th year after her disappearance, something changed. A new report appeared in a neighboring state. Another missing woman. Same method. Same absence of violence at the scene. Same phrase from the last witness. He looked like someone who worked in an office. For the first time in 7 years, Emily smiled. Not with relief, with certainty. Chapter 4. The mistake. Emily did not go to the police when she saw the news report. She turned off the television and sat in silence for nearly an hour. The missing woman's face stayed frozen in her mind. Different hair, different eyes, the same empty smile. The report said the woman vanished near a small desert town. Population barely 3,000. One hospital, one gas station, one motel. Patterns always returned to places like that. Emily drove there 3 days later. She told no one. The town looked peaceful in daylight. Too peaceful. Children rode bicycles near the gas station. An old man washed his truck slowly, as if time had no meaning here. Emily parked across the street and simply watched. She watched for 3 hours. Nothing happened. No screaming. No struggling. No suspicious shadows. Only ordinary people living ordinary lives. That was always his camouflage. She entered the gas station just before sunset. The same smell of fuel, the same soft electronic chime at the door. The cashier barely looked at her until she asked one simple question. "Did you see a man with glasses here last week?" The cashier hesitated. That pause lasted less than a second, but Emily noticed it. "Lots of men wear glasses," the cashier said. His voice was calm. Too calm. Emily nodded and paid for a bottle of water with shaking hands. As she turned to leave, the cashier spoke again. He helped that girl with her car. Emily stopped, her breath caught. The sentence was too familiar. Outside, the sun was already touching the horizon. Emily sat in her car and did not start the engine. Her hands were numb. He had not changed his method, because he had never been caught. That night, she stayed in the motel. Room 12, the number meant nothing to her at the time. She chose it randomly, or so she thought. At 1:47 a.m., someone walked past her door. Slow steps. Unhurried. Confident. They stopped. Just for a moment, then continued down the corridor. Emily did not move, did not breathe. Only her eyes remained open in the darkness. In the morning, she checked out early. The motel manager barely looked at her receipt, but when she turned away, he spoke quietly. Room 12 had another guest last night. Emily froze. "I thought you were alone on that floor." On the road out of town, she finally pulled over and vomited. Not from fear, from certainty. He was closer than he should have been, and for the first time in 7 years, he had walked past her instead of taking her. This was his mistake. Chapter 5. The ordinary man Emily did not return home after leaving the town. She rented a small apartment 2 streets away from the gas station. She told the landlord she worked remotely. He believed her without questions. People always believe ordinary explanations. That was how he survived for years. Every morning at exactly 7:18 a.m., the same man left a beige apartment building across the street. Beige jacket, brown shoes, black framed glasses, average height, average posture, average life. He carried a briefcase. Emily watched him from behind her curtain, unmoving. Her coffee grew cold every morning. She never touched it. He walked the same route daily. Gas station, bakery, bus stop. The rhythm never changed. Only safe people live by such predictable rhythms, or those who need alibis. On the 4th day, Emily followed him for the first time. She kept her distance, 30 steps behind, always on the opposite side of the street. He never looked back, not once. He worked at a small insurance office on the 2nd floor of an aging building. No sign, no logo, just paper taped to glass, open. Emily stood across the street for nearly an hour. She watched people enter, middle-aged women, an elderly couple, a delivery boy. They all walked out safely, smiling, thanking him. At night, Emily wrote everything in a notebook. Times, routes, clothes, weather. She wrote until her fingers cramped. She wrote to convince herself that he was real, that this was not another hallucination born from fear. I hated him most when I saw him drinking coffee, she would later say. He drank it slowly, like someone who deserved peace. On the 7th day, she noticed something new. Every evening, on his way back home, he stopped near the same parked cars. Always different vehicles, different colors, different owners, but the same movement. He bent down, looked under the hood, then walked away. Emily finally understood he was not hunting with aggression. He was planting doubt, planting fear, planting opportunity. That night, Emily dreamed of engines stopping one by one along an endless, dark road. In the dream, no one screamed. They simply stepped out of their cars, one by one, into the darkness. On the 10th day of surveillance, for the first time, he broke his routine. He did not go home after work. He turned onto a street Emily had never seen him take before, a street leading toward the desert outskirts. Emily hesitated for 3 seconds, then followed. The sun was already sinking. The sky was the color of dried blood. Emily's hands were shaking on the steering wheel, not from fear anymore, from recognition. She was no longer watching a man. She was walking into the past. Chapter 6. The Bait. The woman's name was Laura. Emily learned this from the insurance office window sign-in sheet. Laura came every Tuesday at 6:40 p.m., always late, always apologizing, always smiling with tired eyes. She worked at the nearby supermarket. Emily saw her once laughing with a coworker near the refrigerator trucks. Alive, unaware, already chosen. The man noticed her on the 2nd Tuesday. Not openly, not obviously. Only a slight pause when Laura dropped her pen. Only a fraction of a second too long when he bent to help. Emily was watching from across the street. She saw everything. The pause, the look, the decision. That evening, Laura's car did not start in the parking lot. She tried twice, then again. The engine coughed and died. Emily felt her own breath stop. The man appeared as if summoned by the failure.com. Helpful. Smiling politely, he spoke to Laura through the lowered window. Emily could not hear the words. She did not need to. She already knew them by heart. Laura stepped out of the car, only to look, only for a second. That was always enough. Emily opened her own car door. For a moment, she considered shouting, running, breaking the script. Then she remembered the motel corridor. Room 12, the slow steps, and she stayed silent. The man leaned into Laura's hood, pointed somewhere inside the shadows of the engine. Laura leaned closer. Too close. The parking lot lights flickered once. Just once. Emily gripped the steering wheel until her fingers went numb. If she moved now, everything would collapse. If Sister Jed, someone might die. This was the choice no survivor should ever have to make. After a minute, Laura straightened. She laughed. Relieved. The man stepped back. He closed the hood. The engine started. For a moment, Emily believed she was wrong. For a moment, she hated herself for suspecting. Laura waved goodbye and drove away. The man watched her leave. So did Emily. He did not follow her. Not that night. Emily stayed in the parking lot long after both of them had gone. Wind rose. Empty plastic bags rolled across the asphalt. The town was breathing quietly around her. Safe. For now. At 3:13 a.m., Emily's phone vibrated, an alert from the local news she had secretly subscribed to. Woman reported missing after late shift at supermarket. Emily closed her eyes. Laura's face appeared behind her eyelids. The same tired smile. The same trusting eyes. Still unaware. He had let her go once. He had never let them go twice. Emily finally understood something that made her hands shake. She was no longer following him to save anyone. She was following him to stop the counting. Chapter 7. The follower Emily began following him at night. Not every night. Only when the silence felt to complete. She learned his evening rhythm the way one learns breathing. At 9:12 p.m., the lights in his apartment turned on. At 10:03 p.m., the television glow appeared behind the curtains. At 11:17 p.m., the lights went out. Some men sleep, others prepare. On the first night she followed him, he walked instead of driving. No briefcase, no jacket, only a dark sweater and the same glasses. He blended into the shadows of the street as if the darkness recognized him. Emily stayed 1 block behind, always 1 block. The city changed after midnight. Traffic died, windows closed. Human noise dissolved into distant machinery and wind. He walked calmly, as if nothing in the world could hurry him. He passed closed stores, empty cafes, darkened bus stops. Every place Emily once associated with life now felt like a stage waiting for an unseen performance. She felt as if she were watching a future that had already happened before. At the edge of town, he stopped, just once, under a flickering street lamp. Emily hid behind a parked truck and waited. Her heart hammered so loudly she feared it would betray her position. He adjusted his glasses, looked up at the light, then turned back toward the town. Emily's stomach tightened. For a second, she believed he had sensed her, but he simply changed direction. Calmly, deliberately, forward. Now closer than she ever had been. 20 steps. Then 15. They reached an industrial block near the highway. Silent warehouses, concrete walls, locked gates, the kind of place where sounds disappear and decisions remain. He slowed near a row of parked cars. Emily recognized the movement instantly. The familiar bend, the familiar glance beneath the hood. She did not see his hands clearly, only his silhouette merging with metal and shadow. A woman appeared from the far end of the lot. Young, phone in hand, keys between her fingers. She walked straight toward the same row, unaware she was entering the same pattern that had already destroyed others. Emily felt time collapse. This was not memory. This was repetition. The woman reached her car. She pressed the unlock button. The doors opened without problem. Emily's breath caught. One small change. One broken detail in the familiar script. The man straightened slowly. He did not step toward her. He only watched. Like a patient animal that knows the hunt does not always succeed. The woman drove away safely. The engine's sound faded into the highway noise. Nothing happened. except the understanding he had not planned to take her. Not tonight. Tonight, he had been testing, checking something invisible. Perhaps fate. Perhaps himself. Emily realized something that terrified her more than any memory. He did not hunt every night. He only hunted when the conditions felt right. No witnesses, no obstacles, no hesitation. And tonight, for reasons she could not see, the conditions were wrong. He turned away and disappeared between the warehouses. Emily did not follow further. For the first time since she had begun watching him, she was afraid of what she might see, not him. Herself. Back in her apartment, she did not turn on the light. She sat on the floor in complete darkness until dawn, listening to the building breathe. Listening to her own pulse slowly return to a human rhythm. You don't stop monsters, she would later write in her notes. You only meet them closer than others ever should. Chapter 8. The invitation he approached her 3 days later. Not at night. Not in shadow. In daylight, Emily was standing in line at the bakery across the street from his building. The smell of warm bread filled the room. Normal life surrounded her. That frightened her more than darkness ever had. She felt him before she saw him. The air shifted behind her. A quiet awareness touched the back of her neck. She did not turn immediately. She waited. "Excuse me?" a calm male voice said behind her. "Is this line only for takeout?" Emily turned. His face was closer than it had ever been. Too close. Up close. He looked even more ordinary. Light wrinkles near the eyes. Carefully trimmed hair. Clean glasses. A man people trusted without realizing why. "Yes," she answered. After half a second, her voice did not tremble. That surprised her. "Thank you," he said politely and stepped in line behind her. That was all. No threat. No tension. No hidden meaning. Only two strangers waiting for bread. Emily's hands briefly lost feeling. Her body remembered what her mind tried to keep sealed for years. He smelled of soap and something metallic underneath. She had smelled it before. They waited in silence. The cachet moved slowly. Time stretched. He did not speak again, but when she paid him, turned to leave, he spoke once more. "You're new in the area," he said. It was not a question. Yes. A single word felt safer. "I live nearby," he added calmly. "Across the street." Emily nodded. So did I, she thought. Outside, they walked in the same direction for several steps. People passed them. Cars moved. The street lived. No one noticed two predators sharing the same sidewalk. "You dropped this," he said suddenly. He held out her notebook, the one she carried in her bag, the one with the times, the routes, his routines. Her heart stopped, not metaphorically, physically. For one brutal moment, she could not breathe. "It fell when you paid," he said, watching her closely. His eyes were careful, observant, almost gentle. She took the notebook slowly. Their fingers brushed. A human touch. Warm. Real. Too real. "Be careful," he added. "These streets are quieter than they look." Then he walked away. Unhurried, calm, as if he had just returned a forgotten wallet. Emily stood, frozen on the sidewalk. People flowed around her. The ordinary world resumed its movement. In her apartment, she locked the door with shaking hands. Opened the notebook. He had not opened it. At least, not enough to read. Or perhaps he had already read everything and chosen not to react. That night, someone slid a piece of paper under her door. No knock. No sound. Just paper against floor. It was a business card. Plain. White. Black letters. Michael Harris, insurance consultant. Below the name was a phone number and a handwritten message. "If you need help with your car sometime, I'm nearby." Emily sat on the floor for a long time holding the card. She did not scream. She did not cry. She only smiled. For the first time in 7 years, because now she knew something for certain. He had seen her watching, and instead of running, he had invited her closer. Chapter 9. The agreement. Emily did not call him that night. She placed the business card on the table beside her bed and turned off the light. The card remained visible in the darkness, like a pale wound. She waited 2 full days, not as a strategy, as a test. If he was watching, he would notice the delay. If he was hunting, he would not rush. On the 3rd evening, at exactly 6:22 p.m., she dialed the number. The line connected after the first ring, as if he'd been holding the phone already. "Michael," he said calmly, no surprise in his voice. No question of who was calling. "My car makes a strange noise," Emily said. Her voice was steady, almost bored. "Tomorrow at 9, he replied. It was not an offer. It was a schedule. Yes. One word, one step closer. He gave her an address, not the insurance office. A small private garage at the industrial edge of town, a place without neighbors. A place without witnesses. That night, Emily did not dream. Her sleep was heavy and black, like the pause before impact. At 8:57 a.m., she parked outside the garage. The door was already open. Inside, the lights were on. Michael stood near the workbench, wiping his hands with a clean cloth. The same motion she remembered from years ago. "You're punctual," he said. "So are you," she answered. They exchanged ordinary smiles. Ordinary words, ordinary lies. The garage smelled of oil, dust, and cold metal. The walls were bare. No tools hung in visible places. Only silence filled the empty air between them. "Open the hood," he said. Emily obeyed. The familiar click of the latch echoed too loudly. He leaned over the engine, studied it carefully, too carefully. As if the machine were not the reason she was here. He did not touch her. He did not stand close. The distance between them was polite, professional, deadly. "Nothing serious," he said after a moment. "One loose connection." He tightened something unseen. Closed the hood. Stepped back. "That will be $50, he said. Emily paid him in cash. Their fingers brushed again, lightly, meaninglessly, or so it seemed. As she turned to leave, he spoke behind her. "You were very quiet the other night," he sighed softly. "Some people talk when they are afraid." Emily faced him slowly. "I'm not afraid," she replied. The light tasted bitter and true at the same time. He studied her face with open attention now. No mask, no hurry, just observation. "Good," he said finally. Then he smiled. Not kindly, not cruelly. Precisely. Fear complicates things. Emily drove away without looking back. Her hands were calm on the wheel. Her pulse was measured. Her decision was already irreversible. That evening, another business card slid under her door. The same white card. The same black letters. This time, on the back, only one sentence was written. "Next time, don't pretend you don't recognize me." Emily sat on the floor and pressed the card to her chest. Her breathing grew slow, controlled, because now the game was no longer silent. Now it had rules, and both of them knew exactly what they were. Chapter 10. The second visit, Emily returned to the garage 4 days later. Not because her car needed it, because silence between them had become too loud. This time, the door was closed when she arrived. She waited in her car for nearly a minute. Then it opened slowly. Michael stood inside, as if he had been waiting just behind it. "I didn't hear the engine this time," he said. "I heard the gravel." She stepped inside without a word. The door closed behind her with a soft metallic echo. The sound settled into the space like a promise. "You remembered the way," he noted. "I have a good memory," she replied. They both knew what kind of memory she meant. He gestured to a chair near the wall. Not close, not far, a carefully measured distance. Coughley, he asked. She hesitated, then nodded. This was the first unnecessary kindness. It frightened her more than threats would have. He poured from a thermos into 2 chipped cups. Steam rose quietly between them. For a moment, they were only 2 ordinary people sharing warmth in a cold place. "I used to hate garages," Emily said suddenly. The sentence escaped before she could stop it. Michael's hand froze mid-motion, only for a fraction of a second. Then he continued pouring. "Many people do," he said. She watched his face carefully. There was no surprise in it, only calculation. "You never asked me my last name," she said. "I didn't need it," he replied. Another invisible signal. They drank in silence. "I saw you at the motel once," Emily said quietly. His eyes finally met hers fully. Not in shock. In interest. "Which one?" he asked. "The one near the highway," she answered. "Room 12. The air changed, not dramatically, subtly, as if pressure had dropped in the room. "That was a long time ago," he said. "Yes," Emily replied. "For both of us." He set his cup down slowly, very carefully, as if sudden movements no longer belonged in this conversation. "You watch people the way I do," he said. It was not an accusation. It was an observation. "I learned from the best," she answered. For the first time, his smile faded completely. No mask remained. Only the naked structure underneath. "Be careful what you learn," he said. "Some skills only work in one direction." "Not anymore," Emily replied. They looked at each other for a long time. 2 people standing on opposite sides of a decision neither would name. Outside, a truck passed on the highway. The sound felt too distant. Too late. "You can go," Michael said finally. "No charge today." Emily did not move immediately. Then she stood. Walked past him. Stopped at the door. "Next time," she said without turning around. "I won't come about the car." After she left, the garage light remained on for hours. That night, Emily wrote only 1 line in her notebook. "He sees me now. Still, he underestimates why I returned." Chapter 11. The house without windows. He did not call her. He simply appeared where she already was. 3 evenings later, at the bakery. The same line, the same smell of bread, the same ordinary people pretending the world was safe. "This place is too noisy," he said quietly, standing beside her. "Let's talk somewhere quieter." It was not a suggestion. It was an invitation shaped like a decision. Emily did not answer immediately. She paid for her bread. Stepped outside. He followed without hesitation. They walked in silence to a parked car 2 blocks away, a dark sedan. Clean. Unremarkable. Invisible to attention. "You are not afraid," he observed while unlocking the door. "I am," Emily replied, "but I'll go anyway." He smiled thinly. "For the same reason I do." She did not ask what reason he meant. They both already knew. The drive lasted 20 minutes. Out of the center. Out of familiar streets. Toward low industrial buildings and fenced lots. The city slowly peeled itself away from them. At the edge of a forgotten district, he turned onto a narrow side road. No streetlights. No shops. No signs. Only a row of low houses pressed against the darkness. He stopped in front of one of them. Single floor. Flat roof. No visible curtains, and no windows facing the street. "This is where I live," he said. The words carried no pride, no shame, only fact. Emily stepped out of the car. The air smelled of dust and dry weeds. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Inside, the house was colder than she expected. Bare walls, minimal furniture. No photographs, no personal traces of life, as if a person had passed through but refused to leave evidence. "This is where I keep things simple," he said. "Simplicity is a form of control." Emily nodded. She felt the truth of that sentence in her bones. He offered her a chair. She sat, not because she was weak, because she chose to be still. They faced each other across a narrow table. No coffee, no small talk. The silence was deliberate. Shaped, measured. "You followed me for weeks," he said calmly. "Yes." No attempt to deny. "No. You could have gone to the police," he continued. "Yes. Why didn't you?" Emily inhaled slowly. "Because they were always too late." He watched her with open curiosity now. No masks. No polite surfaces. Only attention. "Late for what?" he asked. "For understanding you," she said. A pause stretched between them. Thin. Taut. Most audibly. "I wondered when you would say it out loud," Michael said. "There is relief in being finally seen." "There is danger in being seen," Emily replied. He leaned back slightly. "I never take what resists too much," he said. "I take what steps forward on its own." Emily met his eyes without blinking. "Then you misread me." For the first time, something moved behind his composure. Not fear. Not anger. Interest sharpened into something colder. "People always believe they are different," he said. "And you—" "I already was," Emily answered. Silence returned. Deeper now. Heavier. "You may leave," Michael said at last. "No harm will follow you tonight." "Tonight," Emily repeated quietly. He opened the door for her, stood aside, allowed her to pass. At the threshold, she turned back once. "Laura," she said. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Why did you choose her?" He did not answer at first. Then, "She stepped out when I pointed." Emily left without another word. Outside, her legs felt hollow, not weak. Hollow as if part of her had stayed inside that house without windows. She did not run. She walked. Slowly, deliberately, like someone who had just crossed the last safe line. Chapter 12. The night he waited, Michael did not contact her for 6 days. No calls. No messages. No appearances. The silence felt intentional, like a held breath. On the 7th night, Emily realized she was no longer waiting for him. She was waiting with him for something unnamed, unavoidable. At 11:48 p.m., the streetlight outside her apartment flickered once, then stayed dark. Emily did not move. She already knew. A shadow passed slowly beneath her window. Unhurried. Unhidden. Someone knocked at her door. Once. Softly. Emily stood up without hesitation. No fear in her movement, only a quiet resignation shaped like choice. He stood in the corridor with a plastic bag in his hand. Ordinary grocery bag, milk visible through the thin plastique. Bread, apples. I was nearby. He sighed calmly. "Your light is off." "I sleep without it," Emily replied. "May I come in?" It was a question, but not an uncertain one. She opened the door wider. He stepped inside. The corridor door closed behind him with a muted click. They stood in her apartment. Her space. Her territory. The balance shifted invisibly. "I brought something," he said, placing the bag on the table. The bag made a soft sound when it touched the surface. Domestic. Almost gentle. "Why are you here?" Emily asked. Michael looked around slowly. At the walls, at the floor, at the narrow bed near the window. "You were in my house," he said. "Now I am in yours. Fair exchange," she replied. He opened the bag, took out the apples one by one, placed them on the table in a careful line. 3 apples. Perfect. Unbruised. "Do you know why I do this?" he asked quietly. Emily did not respond. The room waited. "Because it shows me who notices patterns," he continued. "People who notice patterns are dangerous." "I noticed long before you," Emily said. Michael finally looked directly at her. His gaze rested on her with full attention. Not hunger, not threat. Recognition. "You should not be alive," he said without emotion. Emily felt the wound settle inside her bones like frost. "Yet I am." He approached her slowly, stopped at arm's length, the same distance as in the garage. "Measured how many times have you imagined killing me?" he asked. Emily answered honestly. "Every day for 7 years." He nodded, as if confirming a suspicion. "And how many times did you imagine failing?" he asked. Emily hesitated. "Only once. The present moment." "Good," Michael said softly. "Fear keeps movements precise." Etornith, how I returned to the table, touched 1 apple, then another, then left the 3rd untouched. "You count in 3s, Emily said. "Yes," he agreed. "That is why one always remains." "For what?" she asked. "For return," he replied. He picked up the bag, walked to the door, paused with his hand on the handle. "I waited outside your building for 3 hours tonight." He sighed calmly. "You never checked the window." Emily felt the quiet horror bloomed in her chest, not because he had waited, but because he had waited silently. "That means you are changing," he added. "Or you are," she said. He smiled faintly, opened the door, stepped into the corridor. "Next time," he said without turning back, "I won't knock." The door closed. Slowly, without force. Emily remained standing where she was, long after his steps faded. The 3 apples remained on the table. Identical. Silent. That night, she did not write in the notebook. She burned 1 page instead. Because some patterns should not be recorded. Chapter 13. The line that cannot be uncrossed. Emily found the first envelope under her door. 2 mornings later. No sound, no footsteps. Only paper against floor. Inside was a single printed photograph. A gas station at night, flooded with light. Empty, except for one small detail. A woman standing near a car with its hood open. 7 years ago. Emily sat on the floor for a long time, holding the photo. Her hands did not shake. Her memory did. The second envelope arrived the next day. Another photograph of Motel Corrido. Room numbers visible, 12 in the center of the frame. Her room. He was no longer inviting her closer. He was reaching backward, into the one place she had locked. That same evening, her phone vibrated. An unknown number? 1 message. "You remember everything more clearly than you pretend." Emily deleted the message without replying. Then she vomited in the sink. Slowly. Silently. The 3rd envelope came at night. She heard it slide. This time, she opened the door immediately. The corridor was empty. Only the elevator light flickered at the far end. Inside the envelope was not a photo. It was a handwritten note. "You were not chosen last. You were paused." Emily felt something finally break in her chest. Not loudly. Inward. Like a sealed container losing pressure. She went to the notebook. To the last remaining page. Wrote 1 sentence. "He thinks my fear belongs to him." Then she tore the page out, folded it, and put it in her pocket. That night, She went to the house without windows on her own. Uninvited. Unannounced. The door was unlocked. Waiting. Inside, the table was set for two. 2 cups. 2 chairs. 2 identical glasses of water. Unequal only in temperature. One still warm. One already cold. "You crossed it," Michael said from the dark. "The line was already erased," Emily replied. He stepped into the light. His face looked tired for the first time. Not aged. Not weak. Simply burdened. "People believe revenge moves forward," he said. "It always moves backward first." Emily placed the folded page on the table, between the 2 glasses. "You taught me that," she said. He did not touch the paper. Did not need to. He already knew what it contained. "You are closer to losing control than you think," he said quietly. "So are you," Emily answered. Silence fell again, but now it was unstable. Like glass under tension. "You could still stop," Michael said. Emily smiled faintly. "For you, stopping was never an option." He studied her face for a long time, longer than before. Without interest, without curiosity, with calculation. Then he spoke a sentence that finally crossed the last line. "She begged differently than you." Emily moved before sound reached her ears. Not toward him. Toward the door. Outside, the air collapsed into her lungs like fire. She did not scream. She did not cry. She drove blindly for 40 minutes, stopped only when the desert swallowed the road. On the sand, beneath the open sky, she finally whispered, "I will not finish this as a witness." Far away, in the dark, her phone vibrated. One final message from the unknown number. "Good. Neither will I." Chapter 14. The night of Niagen, monoxide witnesses, Emily returned to the city before dawn. The streets were empty. Even the noise of her engine felt like a violation. She did not go home. She went where the light never fully disappeared. The gas station on the highway. The summer keened the same smell, the same endless night traffic. She sat in her car and waited. 4 hours. Watching strangers step out under fluorescent light, watching ordinary lives pass inches away from danger without knowing it. At 2:41 a.m., she saw his car. The dark sedan entered the station slowly, unhurried, as if the night belonged to him by right. He parked 2 spaces away from a lone vehicle at the far edge, a small hatchback. Engine off, driver's seat empty. Emily saw the woman appear moments later from the restroom. Young, tired, phone in her hand, keys dangling loosely between her fingers. The same details, the same fragile pattern. Michael exited his car calmly, adjusted his glasses, looked at the woman's vehicle, then looked at her. The connection formed instantly. Silent, invisible to anyone else. Emily opened her own car door. Just an inch. The night air touched her face. Cold, sharp, real. Michael approached the woman's car, pointed politely under the hood. The familiar gesture. The ritual rebuilt again from memory. The woman hesitated, looked around. Emily held her breath. Then the woman stepped closer. Just one step, time thickened. The gas station lights hummed. A truck passed on the distant road. The world kept breathing. Unaware, Emily stepped out of her car, not running, walking. Each step felt louder than gunfire. Before she could reach them, another vehicle pulled into the station. Headlights washed the scene in white. The woman flinched. Michael's body stilled. The moment fractured. The woman straightened, said something Emily could not hear, closed the hood herself, returned to her driver's seat. The hatchback pulled away. Slowly, safely. Michael did not move. He watched the red taillights disappear into the black road. Then he turned his head and looked directly at Emily. Across the distance, across the light, across everything that separated memory from reality. They locked eyes, for the first time in a real hunting ground. Not in a garage, not in a house, in the open, where mistakes are visible. Michael tilted his head slightly. A question, a challenge, an acknowledgement. Emily did not look away. She did not hide. She did not advance. After a long moment, he returned to his car. Drove past her, so close she could see the reflection of her own face in his window. He slowed just enough to say one sentence through the open glass. Tonight was not for you. Then he drove away. Emily stood alone under the gas station lights. Her legs finally gave way. She sat on the curb like a witness at a crime that had not yet happened. She understood it now with brutal clarity. He was still choosing. She was still hesitating. And between those two states, people disappeared. Her phone vibrated, a final message of the night. Next time, you will not interrupt. Emily closed her eyes, and for the first time in 7 years, she answered him. Next time, I will not arrive late. Chapter 15. The last wait. After that night, neither of them contacted each other. No messages, no envelopes, no silent visits. The noise between them became preparation. Emily stopped following him. She closed the notebook, burned the remaining pages one by one in the sink, watched the routines turn to ash. Now, memory was enough. She bought things slowly. Not in one place, not on one day. Nothing that would catch attention alone. A length of plastic sheeting, work gloves, cleaning supplies, a small metal tool that fit easily in a pocket. She paid in cash. Always in cash. At home, she removed everything unnecessary. Photos, books, clothes she never wore. The apartment became empty, as if she were already preparing not to return. Michael also changed. She noticed it without seeing him. The town noticed it for her. The bakery closed early twice without explanation. The insurance office remained dark 3 consecutive mornings. The garage near the industrial block stayed locked for a week. It was mobbing, not geographically, strategically. Emily began to wake at exactly 3:12 a.m. every night. No alarm, no reason, only certainty. At that hour, the city sounded hollow. Even distant traffic felt muted, like the world was holding its breath. On the 5th night, she finally left her apartment. No destination, only direction, toward where isolation naturally gathered. The old warehouse district near the desert edge. No cameras, no night patrols, no witnesses. Perfect places for endings. She walked for nearly 30 minutes. Her footsteps echoed, returned to her from empty walls, like someone following at the same pace. Inside one of the warehouses, a single light burned. Dim, yellow, unsteady. Emily stopped across the street. The light flickered once. Teniste didense? Newton. He was already there. Not waiting for her. Waiting with her. Her phone vibrated. One message. No number. We chose the same silence. Emily slipped the phone into her pocket. Crossed the street. Did not look around. Did not accelerate. Inside the warehouse, the air was cold and metallic. Dust hung in the light like frozen breath. Michael stood near the center of the space. Hands empty. No weapon visible. Only patience. You are early, he said. I learned, Emily replied. They stood several meters apart. The distance where decisions still pretended to be optional. You won't stop me, he said calmly. Emily shook her head. No. I will end you. Michael smiled faintly. People often confuse those actions. Silence returned. Thinner now. Sharper. You should have let the police try again, he said. They try after bodies, Emily answered. Michael took one slow step forward. Emily did not retreat. Do you remember the first one? He asked. No, she said. I remember the last. For me, they are all rooms, he replied. Some with doors, some without. Emily took one step forward to match his. The distance closed. Now they stood where voices could no longer lie without effort. Outside, far away, a train horn sounded across the desert. Long, lonely, like a warning meant for no one. Michael's hand moved slightly, not toward her, toward his pocket. Emily's body responded before thought. Muscle memory, shaped by 7 years of waiting. She understood with sudden clarity. This was not the night of the hunt. This was the night of proof, who had truly learned from whom. Chapter 16. The first strike Michael's fingers tightened inside his pocket. Not quickly, not nervously. With the careful patience of someone accustomed to timing, Emily did not wait to see what he would take out. She moved first. Not forward, to the side. Breaking the symmetry he relied on, her metal tool struck his wrist. One clean, compact movement, soundless except for the dull shock of impact. Whatever he was holding fell to the concrete. A small knife. Simple. Ordinary. Michael inhaled sharply. Pain crossed his face for less than a second 10. Bonnie said, replaced by something closer to interest. So, he said softly, flexing his fingers, you finally chose action. Emily did not answer. She circled him slowly, keeping the distance exact, the same distance he once kept from her. You practiced, he added. For 7 years, she replied. Michael shifted his weight, not attacking, testing, like a predator measuring a fence for weakness. You learned control from fear, he said. I learned it from repetition. Then one of us learned wrong, Emily answered. He moved suddenly, not toward her. Past her, toward the exit. The move was unexpected, too human. Too human, too defensive. Emily reacted without thinking. She blocked his path. Their bodies collided. Hard the impact knocked the breath from both of them. For a brief, awful second, they stood pressed together. Close enough to hear each other's breathing. Close enough to feel heartbeats misalign. Michael whispered near her ear. You still hesitate? Emily whispered back. No. I aim. She struck his ribs. Once. Twice. The second blow landed deeper. Michael staggered back. Cuffed. Blood surfaced at the corner of his mouth. Bright under the yellow lights. He laughed. Quietly. A broken, private sound. There it is, he said. The first cut always changes the shape of everything. Emily stepped back as well. Her hands were steady. Her breathing was not. This is only proof, she said. That you bleed, Michael replied. He straightened slowly, one hand pressed to his side, the other hanging loose. Empty tonight is not the end, he said. It is the agreement. Emily nodded. Yes, she said. That's why you will run now. Michael hesitated for the first time. A real hesitation. Measured in heartbeats. Then he turned and ran. His footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Fast. Uneven. Fading. Emily did not chase him. She stood where she was, listening, counting. When the sound disappeared, she finally exhaled. Long, shaking. On the concrete floor near her feet, the small knife remained. She picked it up carefully. Not by the handle, by the blade. Let the edge cut her skin, just enough to feel it. Blood-welled. Warm. Real. Now we are equal, she whispered to the empty space. Outside, the desert wind dragged dust against the warehouse walls, covering their first trace, slowly, patiently. Michael escaped that night, but not untouched, not unseen, and not unchanged. Chapter 177 days without a body. 7 days passed without a disappearance. For the city, that meant nothing. For Emily, it meant everything. Silence returned to the streets in a different form, not calm. Suspicious, like a pause between two heartbeats. The news remained ordinary. Traffic accidents, weather reports, a missing cat on the east side. No missing women. No late-night alerts. No familiar dread in police voices. Emily listened every morning, and every morning felt the same unease. He was not gone. He was choosing. On the third day, she noticed a police cruiser near the industrial district. Parked without lights, engine running, unmarked patients. On the fifth day, the old garage reopened. New lock. Fresh paint on the door, as if nothing had ever happened there. Michael was erasing himself. Not hiding. Rewriting. On the seventh night, Emily dreamed of the apples again. 3 on the table. 1 always untouched. This time, when she reached for the third, it was already gone. She woke at 3:12 a.m. As always, but this time her phone was vibrating. Unknown number, no hesitation now. She opened the message immediately. Absence creates hunger. Hunger creates mistakes. One name was highlighted in pale yellow, a gas station clerk. Male, 29 years old, disappeared 6 days ago. Emily felt the pressure shift inside her chest, not toward the past, toward the future. He was no longer hunting. He was recruiting. That night, rain finally came to the desert. Rare, dirty, heavy with dust. Emily walked through it without an umbrella, let the water erase her scent. Air. Tracks. Her hesitation near the old highway interchange. A single car waited with its lights off, engine silent, patient. She did not approach. She already knew. Her phone vibrated again. You learned to follow. He is learning to replace. Emily replied for the second time. You will not finish teaching. The reply came instantly. Neither will you. Far in the dark, a silhouette moved from the waiting vehicle. Not Michael's posture. Younger, less precise, untrained. Emily's breath stopped. There were now 2 of them. One who knew everything, and one who knew nothing yet. Chapter 1:8. The student Emily followed the silhouette at a distance. Not close enough to be noticed, not far enough to lose him. The rain smoothed every sound into one continuous whisper. The young man walked unevenly. Too fast at first, then slower. Nervous rhythm. Untrained movement. He entered a small roadside diner that never closed. Flickering neon, fogged windows. Temporary refuge for people who didn't want to go home. Emily waited across the street. 3 minutes. 4. Enough time for mistakes. Inside, the young man sat at the counter, hands shaking slightly as he held a cup of coffee. He looked over his shoulder twice in the first minute. Michael was not with him. That was the first wrong detail. Emily entered the diner calmly, chose a booth near the wall. Ordered tea she would not drink. Watched without staring. The young man's phone vibrated. His spine stiffened instantly. He did not pick it up. Waited 10 seconds. 20. Then finally looked. Whatever he read drained the color from his face. Not fear. Instruction. Responsibility delivered too early. He stood up, left money on the counter. Forgot the coffee. Another wrong detail. Emily followed him out. The rain had slowed. The world held its breath again. He walked to the car she had seen earlier. Dark compact sedan, passenger door already unlocked. Michael waited inside. Engine off. Lights off. almost invisible except for one quiet movement. A hand lifting slightly. The young man entered the car. The door closed. The vehicle disappeared into the night without sound. Emily did not chase. Now she knew. And knowing was heavier than uncertainty. 2 nights later, the student appeared again, alone this time. At another gas station, another stretch of indifferent light. He stood near a car with its hood open. A woman watched him with polite distance. Her shopping bags at her feet. Her life paused for a polite stranger. Emily arrived too late to intervene directly. Too early to watch passively. The worst possible moment. The student raised his hand. Pointed beneath the hood. Copied the gesture perfectly. But his eyes betrayed him. They searched for approval that wasn't there. The woman hesitated. Her phone remained in her hand. That single difference saved her. A truck pulled in. Headlights flooded the scene. The student flinched hard. Too hard. He stepped back, mumbled something. The woman closed the hood herself. Got into her car. Drove. Hawaii. The student remained standing alone under the fluorescent light. Breathing fast. Empty-handed. Emily crossed the distance. She stopped several meters away. He did not recognize her. He had never seen the original pattern clearly, only the imitation. "You're not ready," Emily said quietly. The words shattered what little control he had. He spun around, eyes wide, panic naked in his face. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "I know," Emily replied. "That's why I am." Behind him, in the dark, beyond the light, another shape waited, still, watching, learning whether the lesson had failed or matured. Emily did not look at the shadow. She kept her eyes on the student. "He will let you fail," she said calmly. "Not because he doubts you, because he needs proof." The student's breath stuttered. His voice cracked. "He said you were gone." Emily smiled faintly. He always lies about endings. Our phone vibrated in the darkness. Once. Twice. The shadow shifted, then retreated into the night, leaving the student alone with the weight of his first contradiction. Emily took one step closer. Not threatening, not comforting. "Fina, if you return to him," she said, "you will disappear, even if you survive." The student swallowed. His hands were empty. For now, far away, an engine started. Michael was leaving, not rescuing, testing. Emily remained with the student under the harsh light, 2 survivors of the same shadow, at different distances from the edge. Chapter 19. The witness who stayed the student did not run. That was the first unexpected thing. He stood under the gas station light as if the ground had finally decided for him. Emily did not touch him, did not hurry him. She only waited, the way Michael always did. But without the hunger. "My name is Daniel," he said finally. His voice sounded too young for the night he was living. "I know," Emily lied. Sometimes a lie was the only safe invitation. He looked around. At the empty pumps. At the dark road, at the place where the shadow had been. "He said you were a story," Daniel whispered, a warning that failed. Emily nodded. "That's what he tells everyone who survives me." Daniel's hands trembled, now openly. Not from coldem, from collapse. "He watched me for 3 months, Daniel said. At work, at home, on my way to the gym. Emily felt the old nausea rise again. The familiar pattern, the same long cultivation. "He helped me once," Daniel continued. "Fixed my car, paid when I had no money. Michael always paid first. A debt was the strongest chain. He said I was special," Daniel said. "He always does," Emily replied. "Special means usable." Daniel closed his eyes. Tears did not fall. They remained inside, heavy, unspent. He never touched anyone when I was with him, Daniel whispered. I thought I was stopping him. You were learning him, Emily said quietly. That always comes before replacing. Daniel looked at her then. Raleigh looked at not as a myth, not as a threat, as a person who stood and did not disappear. What happens now? He asked. Emily answered honestly. You either become evidence, or you become silence. Sirens sounded far away, not approaching, whost existing. A reminder that the law still breathed somewhere beyond the shadows. Daniel flinched. I can't go back, he said. I won't. Emily studied his face, saw no calculation, only terror mixed with stubborn will. The kind that sometimes survives. Then you stay, she said. With me. That was the moment Michael truly lost something. Not a plan, not upon a witness. 2 days later, the police received an anonymous package. No return address, no fingerprints. Inside, a flash drive. 3 recorded conversations. 1 set of locations, and 1 sentence typed in plain text. He is teaching again. The package never passed through Emily's hands, but she felt its ripple instantly. The city shifted. Imperceptibly. Like an animal sensing heat. That same night, her phone vibrated. Unknown number. The tone she now recognized as inevitability. You broke the pattern. Emily answered once. Slowly. Deliberately. You replaced it with truth. The reply came after a long pause, longer than any before. Truth is louder than blood. Emily stared at the screen, then typed the sentence she had waited 7 years to send. So, Ermi. For the first time since the beginning, Michael did not answer immediately. Chapter 20. The night the city listened, the sirens did not scream that night. They whispered, one by one, from different directions, like the city was surrounding something without admitting it. Emily stood in the dark apartment and listened. For the first time in years, the sounds outside were not random. They had purpose. Daniel sat on the floor near the wall, knees pulled to his chest. Silent. Present. A living contradiction to everything Michael had built. They got the files, he said quietly. Yes, Emily replied, and he knows it. Her phone vibrated. Not once. 3 times. 3 separate numbers. 3 identical messages. You taught him how to speak. Emily felt the cold certainty settle into her spine. They're triangulating, she said. Both of us. Outside, a helicopter passed low. Slow. Surveying, not searching. Listening. Michael was no longer just a shadow. He was becoming a signal. They'll come for you, Daniel whispered. And for me. Emily nodded. Yes. And he will come faster. At 3:12 a.m., the power in the building flickered. Once, twice. Then stabilized. But the air did not. Her phone vibrated again. 1 message. Different tone. No provocation, only coordinates. A place at the edge of the city, where the desert swallowed unfinished roads. You wanted an ending without witnesses, the message read. The city disagreed. Emily read the message twice, then deleted it. He's calling you, Daniel said. No, Emily corrected. He's giving the police something to follow. She turned to Daniel, studied him in the half-light. Young, broken at the right place, still reversible. You will go to the station in 20 minutes, she said. You will tell them everything. Daniel's eyes widened. What about you? Emmeline did not answer immediately. The helicopter sound returned. Closer. Now. I will go where he wants me to go, she said calmly, and make sure he does not leave it. You'll die, Daniel said. Emily's voice stayed steady. So will he. Only one of us will be called justice. They looked at each other, two people who had touched the same shadow from different sides. Why did you save me? Daniel asked suddenly. Emily paused. Long enough to be honest, because if I only kill him, she said, he becomes a story. If primero sabe you, he becomes evidence. Outside, tires screeched somewhere in the distance. Not a chase. Positioning. Emily picked up her jacket, checked the small metal tool. The blood on its edge was long gone, but the memory of it wasn't. I'm scared, Daniel said. I was scared for 7 years, Emily replied. Tonight, I am precise. She opened the door. The corridor light flickered weakly. The building felt hollow, transparent. Right before she stepped out, Daniel said, If you don't come back, what should I tell them about you? Emily did not turn around. Tell them, she said, that I arrived on time. The door closed behind her, softly, like all the other doors before the worst moments. Far away, beyond the city's last lights, one figure waited, and for the first time, the city itself was moving toward him. Chapter 2 won the place without roads. The coordinates led beyond the last streetlight, beyond asphalt, beyond the idea that someone would rescue you by accident. Emily drove with her headlights off for the final mile. Only the pale desert sky guided her. Only memory kept the wheels steady. The place was exactly what Michael would choose. An open pit where a failed construction project had been abandoned years ago. Concrete ribs rust, sand filling everything that was once meant to rise. His car stood at the edge. Empty. Door slightly open. An invitation that pretended to be careless. Emily did not approach it. She walked past. Toward the pit. Toward the dark hollow where sound went to die. Michael's voice came from below. You came alone, aside calmly. Yes, Emily replied, as you taught me. His silhouette emerged slowly from the shadow. Injured side stiff. Breathing measured, still precise despite the blood he had lost. The boy went to the police, he said. Not a question. Yes, that was my mistake, he admitted quietly. I underestimated what fear can grow into when it's not alone. You never understood fear, Emily said. You only rented it from others. Michael watched her with the same detached attention he had always used. But something had changed. Not in his posture. In his timing. They will be here in less than 10 minutes, he said. You hear them already. Far away. Faint vibrations rolled through the desert. Not sound yet. Pressure. Movement. The city inhaling. You could leave? Michael continued. You could still live the ordinary lie they call justice. Emily took one step closer to the edge. And you? I will either vanish, he said, or I will be stopped. You were never stopped, Emily answered. Only delayed. Michael's gaze sharpened. That was the wound she aimed for. Not his body. His pattern. You don't want justice, he said slowly. You want balance. Emily nodded. Yes. A long pause stretched between them, filled only with wind, dragging sand across broken concrete. Then come closer, Michael said, and take it. Emily descended the first step into the pit. Conco groaned under her weight. Another step. Another. The dark swallowed more of her. From above, the desert looked endless. From inside, it felt sealed. You were always brave, Michael said from the shadow. That's why you survived. No, Emily replied. I survived because he wanted a witness. He did not deny it. He never denied his tools. The distance between them closed to a few meters. Close enough to smell blood on him. Close enough that lies would have needed effort. You taught me everything, Emily said. How to wait. How to count. How to disappear. Michael inclined his head slightly. And now, she continued quietly, I will learn how to stop. She saw it then. The smallest shift in his shoulder, the half-decision before motion. Emily moved first, not with rage, not with hesitation. With pure, trained inevitability, their bodies collided in the dark. Hard, unbalanced. Pain was immediate and administrative. No drama in it. Only physics. Michael's injured side failed him. Just enough. Emily drove him backward, toward the deepest part of the pit. You are not supposed to win, he whispered. Straining. Surprised. I'm not winning, Emily whispered back. I'm finishing. Behind them, far above, the first siren finally screamed. Not close, but real. Michael laughed softly. A sound without humor. You still think this ends with me, he said. It never does. Emily tightened her grip. And you still think endings belong to you. He struck her. Once, the blow was sloppy. Pain exploded white across her vision. She did not fall. She drove him back again, closer to the edge within the pit, where the concrete dropped into nothing. The sirens multiplied. Closer now. No longer whispers. Michael's breath grew uneven. For the first time, his control fractured audibly. If you kill me, he said, you become what you hunted. Emily leaned close enough for him to hear over the sirens. No, she said quietly. If I kill you, I become what you never predicted. And then she made the choice. Not fast. Not slow. Final. Chapter 22. The fall of the sirens were close enough now to bend the air, not near enough to stop what was already happening. Michael's heels slipped on loose concrete. Just an inch. Just any yuck. Emily felt the shift through his body before she saw it. Instability travels faster than thought. You feel it now? She said quietly. The moment you always gave others. Michael's grip tightened on her jacket, not to pull her with him. To make a statement. You will be arrested, he said. They will call this justice. Yes, Emily replied, and they will be right. He tried to twist his body. One last technical correction. 7 years of practice fighting gravity. Emily stepped forward instead of back, closed the distance, removed leverage from his hands. For a fraction of a second, his eyes finally lost calculation, not fear. Recognition. This isn't murder, he whispered. This is succession. No, Emily answered. This is interruption. She released him, not violently, not with force, with certainty. Michael fell backward into the dark hollow of the pit, not screaming, not resisting. Only the sound of impact traveled upward. Dull, final, unmistakable. The echo lingered longer than the body. Emily stood at the edge, breathing, uneven, legs shaken, listening for movement that did not return. The sirens reached the perimeter. Lights cut through the desert. Red, blue, white. Rewriting the night into official color. She did not run. She did not hide. She dropped the metal tool beside her on the concrete. Let it fall loudly. Let it be found. Police voices filled the air. Commands. Shock. Urgency. Forms of control arriving too late for prevention. An officer approached her carefully. Gun raised, unsure which shadow she belonged to. Step away from the edge, he ordered. Emily complied. Slowly. Hands open. Empty. When they looked into the pit, silence changed its meaning. The officer turned back to her, blood on her face, dust in her hair, eyes too clear for the moment. Did you push him? He asked. Emily did not look away. Yes. Another pause. Longer. He swallowed. "Do you know who he was?" "Yes," she answered. "And now he is finished." They handcuffed her without force, without ceremony, as if the night itself had already completed the difficult parts. As they walked her toward the cars, Emily looked once more at the dark pit, at the place where her past had finally touched the ground. Her phone vibrated in the evidence bag. One final unsent message, drafted earlier, surfaced on the cracked screen. "You never chose your ending. You only delayed mine." She closed her eyes as the patrol car door shut. Not in relief, not in regret, in completion. Chapter 2-3. The interview room smelled of disinfectant and old air. Emily sat alone at the metal table for 47 minutes before anyone spoke to her. No questions, no water, only time. When the door finally opened, two people entered, a detective with tired eyes and a woman in a dark suit who did not introduce herself. She did not need to. "You are being held on suspicion of homicide," the woman said calmly. "In the state of Arizona?" Emily nodded once. "I know. The charge will be second-degree murder," the prosecutor continued. "Intentional, not premeditated in the legal sense." Emily listened carefully, as she had learned to do with everything that mattered. "You pushed him," the prosecutor said. "You admit that?" "Yes. There were no witnesses to the act itself," the woman continued. "But there is physical evidence here present. Your confession and the history." "The history was ignored," Emily said quietly. The detective shifted. The prosecutor did not. "The history explains motive," she replied. "It does not excuse the act." Emily lowered her gaze to her cuffed hands. "Motive." That word felt small. "You will not be charged with first-degree murder," the prosecutor added. "There is no proof of prior planning to kill that night." Emily looked up. "You don't believe me when I say I waited 7 years." The prosecutor met her eyes. "I believe you waited," she said, "but the law needs proof, not endurance." Silence thickened between them. "Not hostile, procedural. You will be held without bail until the preliminary hearing," the prosecutor said. "The victim is confirmed deceased at the scene." Victim. Emily felt the word strike differently than all previous names. "Did he suffer?" Emily asked. The detective's jaw tightened. The prosecutor answered instead. "He died from internal injuries immediately after the fall," she said. It was quick. Emily closed her eyes, not from relief. From weight finally placed where it belonged. "You will be transported to county jail within the hour," the prosecutor said. "You are advised to seek legal counsel." The woman stood. The detective followed. At the door, he paused. "You stopped something," he said quietly. "That won't be written anywhere." The prosecutor did not turn back. "Everything that matters will be written," she said. "Just not the way you want." The door closed. Emily was alone again. Through the small, reinforced window, dawn began to crawl into the sky. Pale, unforgiving. For the first time in 7 years, no one was hunting, and no one was being hunted. Chapter 24. The statements. The first statement was taken at 6:14 a.m. Daniel sat wrapped in a borrowed blanket inside a gray interview room. Hands still shaking, voice too steady for what he described. He called it training, Daniel said. Like a job, like a craft. Across from him, two detectives exchanged a brief look. Training meant repetition. Repetition meant pattern. He never said names, Daniel continued. He used numbers, places as coordinates, people as variables. On the table lay printed images from the flash drive. Gas stations, parking lots, back roads. The same places Emily had once memorized alone. "He taught me how to approach," Daniel said. "How to slow my breathing so victims wouldn't feel urgency." One detective stopped taking notes for a moment, looked up. "Victims," he repeated. Daniel swallowed. That's what he called them. The second statement came from the gas station clerk. The one who had disappeared. The one Michael had almost reshaped. I thought he was saving me, the clerk said. He paid my debts, fixed my car, watched me work. Watched? The detective asked. Always from the same pump, the clerk replied. That's how I knew later it was him. He described the diner, the rain, the woman who spoke to him under the fluorescent light. She didn't threaten me, he said. She warned me. About what? The detective asked. That survival can look like loyalty, he replied. By noon, the third file was opened. Emily's. The prosecutors did not focus on Michael first. They built their case around her. That was how the system always worked. The living were easier to define than the dead. She tracked him for years, the lead prosecutor said. Compiled routines. Monitored locations. Another attorney added. She confronted him before. There was escalation. A photo from the warehouse was placed on the table. Blood on concrete. A knife in evidence wrap. She made the final engagement. The prosecutor concluded. She chose the site. She chose the timing. At 3:37 p.m., Emily was brought in for secondary questioning. No public. No recording devices visible. Only a camera behind tinted glass. You knew he would be there, the prosecutor said. At the pit? Yes, Emily replied. You removed your phone battery for the drive. The prosecutor continued. That indicates prior intent. Emily hesitated. I removed my phone battery, she said, so he couldn't track me the way he taught Daniel to track people. The room went quiet. You still went there knowing a confrontation would occur, the prosecutor pressed. Yes, and you anticipated lethal outcome, the woman stated. Emily lifted her eyes. I anticipated inevitability. The prosecutor tapped the folder slowly. Inevitability is not a legal defense. No, Emily said. It's a fact of pressure. At 7:11 p.m., the first media request reached the district office. An anonymous tip, a dead man in a pit, a woman in custody, a pattern finally broken. By midnight, her name existed outside police files. On screens, in whispers, in search bars. Inside her cell, Emily lay on the narrow cot. Concrete under her back, fluorescent light buzzing above. For the first time, the city knew a version of the story, not the true one, but a loud one. And Michael, finally, was becoming history. Not a shadow, a case. Chapter 2:5. The woman who killed the monster. The first headline appeared before sunrise. It was inaccurate. It always was. Desert killer found dead. Woman in custody. By noon, the narrative had splintered into dozens of versions. Some named her a survivor. Others named her a murderer. A few called her a warning. Emily did not see any of it. The screen in her cell showed only the time and the temperature. Numbers without opinion. In the holding corridor, she heard the guards talk. Quietly, carefully. As if even words might choose a side. They're calling her a hero on some forums, one said. And a psychopath on others, another replied. The guard at her door did not speak. He only looked at her differently than before. Not as a suspect. Not yet as a convict. As a symbol still being negotiated. At 10:23 a.m., the public defender arrived. A man with careful eyes and a worn briefcase. They're trying this two ways, he told her through the glass. One side argues for second-degree murder. The other is floating voluntary manslaughter under extreme emotional disturbance. Emily listened without reacting. And which one am I? She asked. You are the one who pushed a man into a pit, he replied, and the one who survived him for 7 years. That's not an answer, she said. That's the trial, he answered. Outside the courthouse, the first group had already gathered. They held no unified signs, only feelings printed on cardboard. Justice for the missing. She stopped him. Nitrogen. Monoxide 1 has the right to kill. 3 truths, refusing to stand in one line. Daniel was brought in through a side entrance, a cap pulled low. face already known to people who had never met him. Online, he was now called the student. They asked him dozens of questions. About Michael, about Emily, about the night of the fall. She didn't plan to be a hero, Daniel said at one point. She planned to be a wall. That quote ran untouched through every channel within the hour. No one explained it. That made it valuable. In the women's holding unit, another inmate recognized Emily. Not by face, by rumor. "You're her," the woman said through the bars. "The one from the desert." Emily did not answer. "They say you killed something that needed killing," the woman continued. "They also say you enjoyed it." Emily finally looked at her. "I endured it," she said. "That's louder than enjoyment." The woman nodded slowly, as if weighing whether endurance was dangerous. At the judge's first private review, no cameras were allowed. Only paperwork. Only law. Cause of death. Blunt force. Trauma from fall. Intent. Contested. History. Extensive. Mental state. Under evaluation. The word vengeance appeared nowhere. The word premeditation appeared twice. That night, for the first time, Emily was allowed to watch the news. Muted. Subtitled. Distant, her own face appeared blurred on the screen. Her name spelled incorrectly beneath it. A commentator said, "She represents a failure of protection." Another replied, "She represents the danger of private justice." Emily turned the screen off. For the first time since the pit, she felt tired. Not from fear, from being interpreted. Her phone, sealed in evidence storage, was finally powered on by investigators. One unsent draft remained. Never transmitted. If they ever hear you scream, it will only be because I allowed the sound. The investigator who read it closed the file slowly, not as a professional, as a human. Public opinion sharpened. Protests grew. Online arguments multiplied faster than evidence could move. And in the center of it all, behind concrete and routine, Emily waited. Not for judgment, for meaning the city would never fully agree on. Chapter 2-6. The plea, the offer arrived without ceremony. No drama. No raised voices. Only a thin folder slid across a metal table. Voluntary manslaughter, the prosecutor said, under extreme emotional disturbance. Emily studied the woman's face, looked for judgment, found only calculation. That reduces the range to 7 to 21 years, the prosecutor continued. Arizona Estatut. Determinate sentencing. Her lawyer exhaled slowly. This was the best shape mercy ever took in court. And if I refuse? Emily asked. Then we proceed on second-degree murder, the prosecutor replied. That's 10 to 25 years. Realistically, closer to 20. The numbers did not scare Emily. They only made time visible. You want a confession, Emily said. We already have one, the prosecutor answered. We want closure that survives appeal. Silence settled, not hostile, transactional. You'll state that you intentionally pushed him, the prosecutor said. That you understood the risk of death, and that you acted under emotional duress. Emily leaned back. And what do you state? That the state acknowledges prolonged trauma, the prosecutor replied, but cannot condone extrajudicial killing. Daniel's name was not mentioned. Michael's name was not spoken. Both were present anyway. Emily's lawyer leaned closer. They are giving you a path where the jury docenti get to turn you into a symbol, he said quietly. And if I don't take it? Emily asked. Then the jury will, he replied. Emily closed her eyes. She saw the pit, not the fall, the moment before. The choice that no statute described. I want one condition, she said. The prosecutor raised an eyebrow. Full release of all evidence on Michael, Emily continued. Every tape, every file, every location. Public. The prosecutor exchanged a glance with another attorney. A longer one. That material is still part of open investigations, she said. So was he, Emily replied. Another pause. this time heavier. And Daniel, Emily added quietly, he's in protective custody, the prosecutor said. He will not be charged. Emily studied the edge of the folder, her future compressed into paper. If I take this deal, she asked, will you call what I did justice? The prosecutor answered honestly, no. Will you call it necessary? Another pause. Longer. No. The prosecutor said again, we will call it unlawful. Emily nodded. That was the answer she needed. She took the pen. I will not plead that I was confused, Emily said. I will plead that I was final. The prosecutor adjusted her glasses. That wording won't change the sentence. It will change the record, Emily replied. She signed, not shaking, not fast, each letter placed with intention. The plea agreement became real. So did the years attached to it. Sentencing was scheduled for 38 days later. Back in her cell, the lawyer met her one last time that day. You likely saved yourself at least 8 years, he said. Emily looked at the concrete floor. I lost nothing that still belonged to me. That night, Daniel watched the news from a safe house. Muted, unblinking. At the bottom of the screen, woman accepts plea in desert homicide. He whispered only one sentence to the empty room. She chose to stay. Chapter 27, the sentence. The courtroom was already full when Emily was brought in. Not with spectators, with wooden benches. Muted breathing. The quiet weight of people who wanted an ending that felt symmetrical. Emily stood between her attorney and a deputy. Hands cuffed in front. Posture straight. Eyes forward. The judge entered without dramatics. Older, tired, someone who had measured ruin in decades, not emotions. This court is in session, he said, and with that sentence, 7 years collapsed into 1 hour. The prosecutor spoke first. Carefully, without adjectives, the defendant admits to intentionally causing the death of Michael Carter by forcefully pushing him into an excavation pit, she said. Under Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 131103, this constitutes voluntary manslaughter under extreme emotional disturbance. Emily listened. The words sounded distant, like they belonged to another person's body. Then the statements began. Not evidence, not law. Loss. A woman approached the podium first. Gray hair, hands shaking openly. My daughter vanished 9 years ago, she said. They told me there was no crime scene, no body, no proof. Her eyes found Emily. I don't know if that man killed my child, she continued, but I know he destroyed hope. She paused, swallowed. You destroyed him, the woman said. I don't know what that makes you. She stepped away. No accusation, no forgiveness, only a vacuum. Another victim's brother spoke next. His voice held anger with nowhere to rest. If she hadn't acted, he said, how many more would disappear while the system waited to be certain? The prosecutor did not object. The judge allowed the question to exist unanswered. Then Daniel was called. No media, no questions from the public. Only his voice. He was shaping me, Daniel said quietly. Teaching me how to look harmless, how to be patient, how to approach. He stopped. Breath cracked. She stopped that, he said, at the cost of herself. When Emily was given the chance to speak, she stood slowly. Not for defense, for precision. I do not deny what I did, she said. I deny only the idea that it was sudden. The courtroom stilled. I waited 7 years, Emily continued, not for anger, for certainty. The judge watched her carefully, not to judge yet. To understand what kind of sentence would actually land. I accept that what I did was illegal, she said. I accept that I will pay for it with years of my life. She paused, but I will not describe it as confusion, fear, or loss of control, she concluded. It was control, for the first time. The judge lowered his gaze. To the papers, to the numbers, to what the law allowed him to do with a human life. Under Arizona law, the sentencing range stood clear. No ambiguity, no poetry. Years. Emily Carter, the judge said finally, you are hereby sentenced to 16 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections, with credit for time served. A murmur passed through the room. 16 was the center, neither mercy nor maxima. A legal compromise with morality. You will be eligible for review after serving 85% of your term, the judge continued. No early parole under this statute. Emily absorbed the number. 16. She pictured it not as time, but as space. As for the court, the judge added, this case represents a failure that no sentence can fully correct. He paused. You acted outside the law, he said, but you acted where the law arrived too late. He struck the gavel once. Sharp. Final. As they led her away, Emily did not look back. Not at the victims' families. Not at Daniel. Not at the empty place where Michael no longer existed. The door closed behind her with the same sound as every other door in this story, soft, ordinary, irreversible. Inside the transport vehicle, one deputy finally spoke, quietly, not officially. 16 years, he said. That's a long time. Emily looked out the narrow window at the desert horizon. Not longer than waiting, she replied. Chapter 2:8 The quiet that remained prison did not greet her with violence. It greeted her with routine, metal doors, plastic trays, voices trained to sound uninterested. Emily learned quickly that survival here was not about strength. It was about being unreadable. Her name traveled faster than her story. The desert woman. The one who killed a ghost. The one who waited. Some looked at her with respect. Some with suspicion. Most with the practical distance of people who had their own sentences to carry. In her first year, she spoke little. In Ersekon, she spoke only when necessary. By the third, silence had become her natural language. At night, the desert returned. Not in dreams, in memory. Wide, indifferent, quiet enough to hold a secret forever. She worked in the prison library. Dusty shelves, broken spina, true crime books shelved beside romance novels and outdated law manuals. Once, she found a paperback with her own case inside. Different names, same shape. She did not open it. Letters arrived sporadically, from strangers. From people who thanked her, from people who cursed her, from a mother who never found her daughter. Emily answered none of them. Some questions were not meant to be satisfied with words. After 5 years, the world outside had mostly moved on. New horrors replaced old ones. New monsters earned new names. Michael's files were finally released in full, dozens of locations. Unmatched profiles, unfinished searches. The word serial was confirmed only after his death. A news segment aired quietly one Sunday night. Authorities believe the desert suspect may be connected to at least 17 unresolved disappearances. No mention of Emily. No correction of the past. Daniel testified in 3 separate investigations. He rebuilt his life in fragments. Different job, different city. A permanent habit of checking reflections in windows. Once a year, he wrote Emily one letter. Short, careful, unsentimentally grateful. She never replied. But she kept them. Inside prison Emily, aged sideways. Her body remained, her former self slowly dissolved. She taught another inmate how to read. Later, another how to write. Later, another how to sit through silence without breaking. Violence happened around her. Never directly. Something about her presence discouraged improvisation. Some women whispered that she carried death with discipline. Others said she carried nothing at all. On her 10th year, a guard who had once processed her intake approached quietly. "You hardly look like the woman from the headlines anymore," he said. Emily answered, "Neither does the world." At night, when the noise finally thinned, she sometimes allowed herself one thought. Not of Michael, not of the pit, not of the fall. She thought of the system. Still breathing, still slow, still imperfect. Somewhere, someone was waiting right now. For proof, for rescue, for certainty. Emily understood something then that time had sharpened. She had not ended evil. She had only interrupted one of its shapes. Beyond the walls, the desert still existed. Wide, indifferent, patient. And in that patience, the same question continued to move through the world, quietly unchanged. How long should a person wait before the law becomes too late?